TNA is back, baby!
TNA Wrestling! We're back!
So after 7 long years...
What's it been, like 7 years?
It's been 7 years, Laura.
That's like 35 cat years.
At Hard to Kill, the greatest wrestling company of all time, total non-stop action wrestling has returned with a bang.
Bang, 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 bang!
Saying that, it didn't actually go anywhere, it just dropped the TNA name 7 years ago.
TNA is dead!
They thought they'd struggle with advertising and other business negotiations taking them seriously with a name as silly as TNA. And also TNA sounds like Tiande, which could mean something very different.
Tits and ass.
Tits and ass.
However, that rebrand didn't end up being a great idea. The company's best names were as TNA, and the TNA name had all the value. When I thought about Impact Wrestling, I thought of it as an inferior version of an old company. Even though it was the same company to me, and I think many others, when you think about TNA, you think about those days when it was in its prime. When legends of a company such as AJ Styles or Samoa Joe would face off in WWE, or Sting and Christian Cage in AEW, fans wouldn't chant for Impact Wrestling, they would chant TNA. And so as Impact Wrestling, it was just always going to have that huge shadow cast over it.
Yeah, that's a pretty big shadow.
And so while I know a lot of people are going to dismiss this as just some simple rebranding, I think this signifies a whole lot more than that.
This could be big, Archie.
This is the start of a new era. This is TNA, and it starts with a ton of new signings.
Just sign the contract.
So the big talking point of this show came at the end after the main event. Nick Nemeth, formerly known as Dolph Ziggler from the WWE, turned up after the main event to attack Moose. After hitting a couple of moves on Moose, he went into the crowd and ripped his shirt off to reveal a TNA shirt. I think this is going to be a truly iconic moment that will be replayed for years to come. Now, Nemeth is a huge signing for TNA because he's a former multiple-time WWE champion. He's so good that many are still confused why WWE released him in the first place. He excels both in-ring and on the microphone, and I also feel he's at that age where he's not past his prime. He's still got plenty in him and is able to have some absolute bangers. I'm also glad he didn't take the easy option and go straight to AEW. Don't get me wrong, he would have been a huge signing for them, but their roster is already too bloated and Tony Khan doesn't know what to do with them. So I'm looking forward to what is in store for Nick Nemeth in TNA. Another debut we had was Alex Hamilton, who really impressed in a hard-hitting bout against Josh Alexander. Now, I'm already familiar with Hammerstone because I used to watch this guy back when I used to watch MLW on a weekly basis. So I saw the rise of this guy as someone who had just started wrestling to a main event talent and eventually their champion. I've been saying for a while that big things are in store for his future, and I think we see the first glimpse of that here. We also saw Top Dollar show up on the pre-show, and I absolutely love that Joe Hendry cashed this in the only way that he can. Elsewhere on the card, we saw another debut in the form of the former Dana Brooke show up with a new character, which everybody is already calling by the wrong name.
Welcome, Ash by Excellence.
Now, I actually think this could be very good for the Knockouts division. I do think that she is highly underrated. And when you think about how long she was with NXT and WWE, she's got a lot of experience. She can be that locker room leader for the newer Knockouts. And speaking of, TNA have signed 2 new young Knockouts from the UK, Zaya Brookside and Danny Luna. We'd seen Danny a bit in TNA already before with Subculture, but now she has officially signed. And the daughter of legendary UK wrestler Robbie Brookside, Zaya Brookside debuted in the Ultimate X match to kick off the show. And how is that for a segue? Because it brings us through to our opening match. I thought it was a great move for TNA to kick off with 2 staples that they were built on, the Ultimate X and the Knockouts. For anyone that doesn't know, Ultimate X is a match that is unique to TNA, where there are ropes going diagonally across the ring with an X hanging from it. You win by climbing across the ropes and retrieving the X. It's kind of like a ladder match, only you can't use a ladder, you have to go up and climb across, so you see some really innovative moves in this kind of matches and some really great athleticism. And this match was no different because we saw plenty of that. The Knockouts is the name given to the TNA women's division. Now, WWE would have you believe they invented the women's revolution when Stephanie McMahon got on the mic and announced it. But TNA were doing this almost 10 years earlier, with women booked with equal importance to the men and putting on banger matches. It sounds ridiculous to say in this day and age, think, because we've all just become so used to it now, but it really wasn't the case back then. There was another fairly big announcement where Scott D'Amore announced a partnership with AAA. This looks like it's going to be kind of a working arrangement talent exchange program, so we can expect to see some of the best luchadors from AAA turning up in TNA over the coming months, and maybe some TNA stars going down to Mexico. And what better way to showcase this new partnership than with the X Division match where Chris Sabin takes on El Hijo del Vikingo and Kushida. The X Division was one of the cornerstones that TNA was built on, and I think having this partnership with AAA is definitely going to help, especially when you have the likes of El Hijo del Vikingo doing his crazy shit. So to run down some of the cards, Sabin retained the X title in that match. PCO versus Dango turned into a 6-man tag match, player. In a surprise return, Decay returned and won the knockout tag title from MK Ultra. The ABC retained the tag titles, and that tag team title match was actually low-key a banger. Really enjoyed that one. Jordan Grace has done it. She's won the women's title from Trinity. It looks like she's now WWE bound with the Royal Rumble around the corner. And as we mentioned at the top of the video, Moose has won the TNA title from Alex Shelley. It really feels like a new era of wrestling is upon us. TNA is back, baby.